We've got breaking news, done deal. Kevin Durant takes a huge discount and signs an extension with the Houston Rockets. Does this now set the precedent for older max level stars moving forward? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. I say it all the time, but a great way to help the channel, hit the subscribe button and make sure you watch this video all the way through. All right, let's take a look at this. Shams Charania breaking the news. Houston Rockets star Kevin Durant has agreed to a 2-year, $90 million contract extension with the franchise. Rich Kleiman tells ESPN. Now, Durant was eligible for a max extension of $120 million, but understood when he chose the Rockets as a trade destination that he'd be sacrificing the money, in this case around $30 million, so that the sides could partner for the long term and give the franchise team building flexibility. So what is this going to mean for the Houston Rockets? And by the way, don't feel too bad for Kevin Durant. I don't think he's going to be hurting for money too much here, because this deal now puts Kevin Durant as number one in NBA history for highest career earnings, surpassing LeBron James. Total of 3 years and $144.7 million on his current contract. So is it a big pay cut? Yes. Is it a big deal because it's such a big pay cut? Yes. I think this could really set a precedent moving forward. But KD, he's not going to be hurting for money anytime soon. But Kevin Durant takes this big pay cut. Now, what does it mean for the Houston Rockets? Well, first and foremost, KD was brought in for the Houston Rockets on paper to be the guy that solves their biggest problem, and that was half-court scoring. They certainly struggled in that area in the playoffs last year against the Golden State Warriors. This is a very, very talented Rockets side. They've got an incredible defense. Their offensive rebounding is legendary. This is a tough team, even with the loss of Fred VanVleet. Unfortunately for the season due to injury, the Rockets are still going to be an absolute problem to deal with out there on the floor. They've got a lot of young talent. They've got a lot of guys that can do a lot of things. But where they struggled was with just creating a bucket out of nothing, with creating something on the offensive end. Again, top-notch defense, top-notch rebounding club. But when it came to actually getting a bucket in crunch time of a close game, they really struggled when a game bogs down to try to find an open shot. And Kevin Durant is one of the greatest of all time in the NBA at that. He's an easy first ballot Hall of Famer. Yes, 37 years old. That certainly is a factor here. We're looking at KD and this deal that he came up with the Rockets. But nonetheless, Kevin Durant should solve that problem for the Houston Rockets. Again, Fred VanVleet being out, that certainly hurts them in terms of their shot creation. But when the offense does bog down in the half court, being able to throw the ball to Kevin Durant, one of the greatest one-on-one isolation scorers that we've ever seen, one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen, period, in the NBA, is going to be a big, big benefit for this Rockets side. But what does this actually mean for Houston financially? What is this going to allow them to do? Because, oh boy, this means not only did Kevin Durant get paid, but because of how much he took less, this is actually going to set up a few other players to get paid by Houston as well, while staying below that second tier apron. So I'm going to get to that right after this.
Ever heard of the Sleeper app? Well, here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper. But the app offers so much more. There's live stats, real-time updates, and visualization on all stats. There's a news feed where you can get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams. And a real-time chat where you can engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. So download the #1 sports app and experience it yourself today. And when you do, use promo code Bulletin and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
All right, and Sleeper does an absolutely fantastic job. You guys can get a free $20 entry with Sleeper, no deposit needed. Great promo they've got going on right now. Again, a free $20 entry. Use the link in the description down below. And once again, that code is Bulletin. So take a look at what this means for the Houston Rockets. My front office show co-host Keith Smith did a great job explaining it here. So I'll show his tweet. He was asked if this could help the Rockets keep Tari Eason. This is something Donnie and I talked about yesterday. This absolutely can. Now, the article that went out yesterday from Jake Fisher mentioned that most capologists are suggesting that the Rockets limit the Kevin Durant deal to 2 years and $80 million. Obviously, they didn't get that done. 2 years and $90 million, but still close enough to where I think this is going to make it so the Rockets can keep this group together. What this means is that the Rockets will now have 35 to 40 million under the second apron going into next season, which will give them enough wiggle room to give Tari Eason an extension somewhere around 20 million, maybe even a little bit more than that, plus factor in Amen Thompson getting a max deal. So when we look at the Rockets cap sheet here, you've got Tari Eason. Now that Kevin Durant is being taken care of on his extension, Tari Eason is extension eligible right now. The Rockets would like to get that done rather than let him hit restricted free agency, particularly if with Tari Eason, if you can get him around that $20 million mark, he could very well outperform that. And then you wind up having to pay him more next summer, as opposed to a guy like a Walker Kessler, as opposed to some of these other RFAs that we've talked about. Again, Donnie and I spent about a half an hour talking yesterday about this whole dynamic around the NBA, where these guys who are all-star adjacent level players, teams are just being a lot more careful with them in terms of how much money they're willing to give on that next deal. So right now that's affecting, as I said, the Walker Kesslers of the NBA, Jalen Duran, Jaden Ivey, perhaps Christian Brown, all these guys that, the clock is ticking, the guys coming off of their rookie scale deals, the clock's ticking for them to get extensions done. They've got till tomorrow to make that happen. But teams are being a little bit more careful with those types of players. Tari Eason, well, I think he can be a phenomenal role player in the NBA, can fit extremely well in a number of different places, and the Rockets love him, and for good reason. He could very well play his way into that upper tier, but right now he would be not quite to that level. Guys like Kessler, guys like Jaden Ivey, these guys may be looking for something in the neighborhood of that $30 million range. And right now, a lot of teams are not willing to break that $25 million per season ceiling that we see for guys like Josh Giddey that we saw with the restricted free agents over the summer, Jonathan Kuminga, players like that, where teams aren't willing to go above that mark. And right now, they're using restricted free agency as their soft landing there in case there isn't a deal to be had. Teams are kind of holding players' feet to the fire by telling them, hey, if you don't want to come to a deal right now, if you're not willing to sign a team-friendly extension right now, well, you'll be a restricted free agent next summer. So we're not worried about losing you for nothing, because look at the situation that Jonathan Kuminga just had to go through. Ultimately, we know that you can't leave our team without us getting something in return. And restricted free agency, I said it yesterday, it is turned into effectively an exclusive negotiating window for a team and their incumbent player, because teams are not touching any restricted free agent. They're just not interested in trying to tie up cap space that way. And they know they would have to overpay in order to get the incumbent team not to match. And right now in today's NBA, under this collective bargaining agreement, overpaying for any player is simply a no-no. You cannot do it. Teams are more scared right now of bad money deals than ever before. And so restricted free agency is not free agency at all anymore. It's an exclusive negotiating window effectively with the incumbent team. And so a team like the Rockets doesn't have to worry about if Tari Eason wanted $30 million, which they feel like could be a bad money deal. They don't have to worry about losing him for nothing because he would hit restricted free agency. But in this case, I do think if the going rate for Tari Eason is somewhere in that 20 million range, it would behoove the Rockets just to get it done now. And the Durant deal, to land my plane here on this, is what will allow them to now do that, and then give Amen Thompson that max extension next year while staying below the dreaded second-tier apron, which most teams, while it is not, in fact, a hard cap, most teams do look at it as a hard cap that they will not pass, given how strict the penalties are for passing it. That right now this season, we only have one team that is above the second-tier apron, and that's the Cleveland Cavaliers. So what does this mean moving forward, though? Because I just talked about how those all-star adjacent players are getting squeezed a bit in today's NBA. Teams are simply not willing to go to the lengths they would have been in the past under the old collective bargaining agreement to pay them. Well, a great example is the Pelicans, right? Who said, we don't want to be the team to pay Brandon Ingram on his next deal. We'll let somebody else do that. Rich Paul even admitted, yeah, BI is probably not getting $40 million bucks out there on the open market like he did from the Toronto Raptors. So that was a big part of why the Pelicans ultimately traded him. We're seeing those guys have to take not max money. Whereas in the past, anybody who was all-star adjacent, the Zach Levines of the world, the Lowry Markkanens, or guys who had made an all-star team or two, they were just kind of automatically being given max money. Those days are gone. But now Kevin Durant, does he set the precedent for what the aging stars get as well? The max guys, the in their prime, I'm a top 5, maybe top 10 superstar, those guys are still going to get their max money, right? They're still, and teams are going to be happy to pay it, because those guys, even if you give them the max, they're worth more than that. So it's still a bargain deal if you give a Luka or Giannis or Jokic or SGA or any of those guys max deals. You still have that upside potential that they're going to outperform that contract. There's always going to be downside due to the injury risk. And that's specifically going to be true, or especially going to be true, with players who are older, like Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, should he decide to do a new deal. But did KD now just set the precedent that, hey, while the mid-tier guys get squeezed, we know the in their prime stars, these dudes are always getting max money, and teams are going to be more than happy to give that to them. But Kevin Durant may have just set the precedent that older players who have gotten a number of max deals in the past, but are still good, because we're seeing players play later and later into their 30s and still be incredibly effective. These guys are going to be expected to take non-max deals, even if they're still performing as max level talents. And that's exactly the situation with Kevin Durant. Has he slowed down a little bit? Yeah, sure. Kevin Durant has slowed down a little bit, but you look at the production, this is still max worthy production here from Kevin Durant. And we see what he's been actually producing. You could make an argument that he should be on a max deal. Look at this, 27 points per game last season for the Phoenix Suns. The Suns were kind of a mess last year, but KD played in 62 games. Okay, not enough to qualify for awards, but I think if the Rockets get 62 plus games out of Kevin Durant this year, they'll be happy with that. 75 games the season before in Phoenix, but 27 points per game. He had 6 boards, 4.2 assists on 53% from the field and 43% from three, while hitting 84% of his free throws and getting there nearly 6 times per game. That's elite. That is elite. Kevin Durant is still among the finest scorers in the NBA. His numbers tell you he should be a max level player, but there's more inherent risk here because he's in his age 37 season that he could miss a significant number of games. And so therefore the Rockets are able to get him at the discount, in addition to the fact that, yeah, he's made more money over the course of his career than anybody in NBA history. And so he's not exactly going to be worried about that final dollar amount. Instead, he's going to be focused more on contending for championships, and therefore it's going to be more willing to do something team friendly here. But I am curious to see what this means for Steph Curry if he decides he wants another contract after this one. And what's it going to mean for LeBron James, who hits free agency next summer? First time that we've seen him be a fully unrestricted free agent, no player option, no team option, nothing on this deal. He may wind up parting ways with the Lakers. He could decide, he's in his age 41 season. He's going to miss for the first time ever the start of the season. He could decide that the sciatica issue that he's got going on, whatever, nagging injuries he's got, maybe he decides to walk away and retire. But if LeBron says, I want to keep playing, and again, his production level suggests he should still be a max level talent when we look at the numbers that he put up, considering that he made second team All-NBA last season, 6th in the MVP vote. I mean, just unprecedented things for a player of his age. But kind of like KD, LeBron still going strong, 24.4 points, 7.8 rebounds, 8.2 assists, a steal, just over half a block per game, 38% from three, 51. I mean, just numbers right in line with what he's done over the course of his incredible career, but up there in years. So like Kevin Durant, does LeBron James take a pay cut off of the max level salary? Now, he has taken some small pay cuts in the past, did it a couple of years ago for the Lakers, and that's on this deal that he's on now. He also has a no trade clause. But do we see now the significant pay cut for LeBron James next summer? Does he take the footprints in the sand that are now being left by Kevin Durant, the precedent that's being set by Kevin Durant? Does he follow along and say, yeah, I'm going to take a bunch of money off on my next deal, whether that's for the Lakers or for anybody else, and open up some more flexibility for the team that he's going to sign with to do some new again, maybe LeBron retires. We don't know where this is going to go. And LeBron James, not extension eligible, currently picked up that player option on his deal for this year, still maintains the no trade clause. But next summer, I do think we're going to be talking more about this Kevin Durant deal and what it really means for LeBron James, for any of the other aging players that are still producing at a max level, but their teams are going to want to mitigate the risk. That's what today's NBA is all about when signing players. It's all about mitigating risk. It's all about making sure there's upside on a contract that you sign, in addition to understanding there will always be downside due to the injury risk here. But LeBron James, could we see this be the summer, next summer, if he decides to continue playing, where he takes the big pay cut? We just saw Kevin Durant take a $30 million pay cut for the Houston Rockets. Is that going to be the way of the future for the aging but still very productive stars? All right, everybody. Appreciate all of you for joining here on a Sunday morning. Please make sure you do subscribe to the channel. We have been blown away by all the support that we've received here at the Basketball Bulletin. Truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Please make sure if you haven't subscribed yet, you do hit that subscribe button. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.